Here we are again in London. I'm delighted, a year on, to be speaking to ROINE STOLT again. ROINE, how are you?
I'm fine, I'm good. I just had lunch and it's not raining, at least inside. I don't know about outside, so we're good.
This year sees the return of the Kings. Last time we spoke, Manifesto of an Architect, you went under the name The Flower King, as you were originally.
Yeah.
So first of all, talk to me about it's kind of like a Tolkien Lord of the Rings thing, the return of the band name.
The return of the band name. Frankly, I haven't been thinking that much about it. It was more like a technical thing last year, you know, the album. To be honest, it was like a suggestion from the record company. And since I was at the time didn't have really a band working live, it was more like I gather some friends for recording, and this was more like a suggestion from the record company. It could be either just ROINE STOLT or ROINE STOLT's The Flower King or whatever, you know.
So as such, is there then a logical progression on this new album, Waiting for Miracles, compared to the previous one?
Well, the thing is, I'm writing music all the time. So to me, I can't really, there's not like a specific time when I decide, oh, let's write for this or let's write for that. It's more like I'm writing music all the time. So when we were asked last year to go out on tour, it came kind of out of the blue because there wasn't really a band. So in, I think, last summer we had people starting to ask, can you go on tour in South America? And I said, well, let me think. I don't have a band, and the Flower Kings as such are not really active as a band touring, but let me find out. And then I started to talking to some of my friends, to Hasse, who is the other singer and the guitar player, and to Jonas, the bass player, and we decided, yeah, well, why not? Why not go down to South America and Mexico and play shows, because we haven't done that in like 10 years or even 15 years, I can't remember. So that's how it started, and then also talking to the record label, they started talking about some kind of Inside Out Jubilee, 25 years or something like that. Are you interested? And you know, and it all came together. Not by it wasn't really my intention to start playing as the Flower Kings again. So we got these offers, and then we put together a band, you know, with a new younger Italian drummer, a younger keyboard player from America, and we went to South America, and everything was fun, and it was great to get back to playing the old songs again. So I think we all enjoyed it, and I think that's a good reason for playing and for recording, because it's so easy to fall into, you know, just the business side of things, you know, and you have everyone on a payroll, and people are more interested in the money or the fame. But now we're together because we like to play the music and to meet the fans and everything.
And as you said, the last time you played in the UK was part of the 25th anniversary of Inside Out. And if I'm right, you were touring with Spock's Beard?
We were touring with Spock's Beard, another band that's been around for a long time, and they've been friends. So we've been playing together with them, you know, before on different occasions. And so it was again the record label that suggested this, and we both. Well, I suppose they felt like, oh yeah, why not? We can play with the Flower Kings. And we thought, yeah, Spock's Beard. That's because we have an audience that sometimes is sort of overlapping. They have a slightly different style than ours, and but I think it's a nice mix.
It did work well. What I really liked at the end of that show, if I remember rightly, you kind of came together, and there was a Beatles cover, for what I remember, as an encore, which is completely unexpected.
There was like long talks about we need to do like an encore together, you know, and they're just like all these crazy suggestions. I think
the Flower Beards.
Yeah, no, but I mean, what song should we play, you know, and lots of complicated stuff. Shall we play Close to the Edge, or should we play some complicated King No, I said, no, we can't do that. We need a week to rehearse, you know. So let's do something simple. And in the end, I think we settled for something. You probably know better than me.
I can't remember which of the. It was one of the anthemic Beatles songs.
It was John Lennon. Could it be in Imagine, maybe?
It could have been Imagine. It was one of those, but it was.
Well, it wasn't Give Peace a Chance, but it was probably Imagine, or something like that.
But it was great, and like you say, two bands with a great legacy, and of course the Beatles. There's lots of 50th anniversary stuff this year.
This year, yeah, true.
So, you have a brand new, and the reason we're here, we have a brand new album out, Waiting for Miracles. It's not just one album, it's a double album, well, a double CD, so it's more than probably a triple or quadruple piece of vinyl. And it's out on the 8th of November, again through Inside Out. So tell us a little bit about the album. It's, for me, listening to it a few times, it's very widescreen, it's very cinematic. And the last one was very proggy, but this one has got an even bigger ambition with orchestral arrangements. So tell me about how that came into being.
Well, it I don't know. To be honest, when it's time to make an album, I usually don't think much. I more look at the material that we have, you know. And in this case, I wrote some of it. I probably wrote most of it. But then we have the two new members. Zach, who is the American, like the young American keyboard player and orchestrator and all that. So he came in with some stuff that was very different from what I would write, and I thought that was interesting, you know, because it's also important, you know, because it's the first album that he really play or contribute with material. So I think it was interesting. But then, even looking at what I've been writing, I was thinking maybe let's try to keep an open mind, so not think too commercial. You have to think commercial, you know, but at the same time, let's not make the album that you think that the fans want. Rather make the album that you would enjoy listening to, that you would find exciting to listen to as a fan. If you put yourself in the position of the fan, what would you like from the band? Something that I have heard before, something that I haven't heard before, something that might not be shocking, but something that, you know, that would be something new, some sounds that are new, some twists and turns that are not expected, you know. So not necessarily something that, let's not get together and try to make the super Flower Kings prog album, but let's open up, you know, to some different avenues and see what we can do with the members that we have in the band. So that's, I think that's one of the reasons we came up with something that sounds a little bit like the old albums, but also has some new elements that are hopefully surprising.
There are, yes, certainly some of the rhythm pieces. There's bits of marimba.
Oh yeah,
and
totally,
there's some really interesting stuff. I was going to just pick out a couple of tracks where I either had some observations or questions. It's a really good cohesive journey, let's say, to listen to, and following the opening track, there's then Black Flag, where it opens with guitar. It's got a very yes feel to it. Now I know you worked with John Andersson on that collaboration. Did that sort of expand your musical horizons, working with someone that with John's imagination?
Of course, it did, but I think in other ways actually, because I realized I started thinking in different ways after working with John. Because I could speak a day about working with John, you know, and all the interesting things, you know, that you can learn from that, and the way he thinks music. So, but I think, honestly, the song Black Flag, I can't really see. I can't really see a yes reference in that.
I think this is for me it was the guitar part is very lyrical, very Steve Howe-like in the opening part, And then there's Jonas's crunching bass, of course.
Oh yeah, the crunchy bass.
Can't get away from the crunchy bass.
We tweak it. Yeah. But I think the interesting thing, and I mean, frankly, I sent out my demos to the guys, and then I let them listen to it, and they pick whatever they felt were like their favorite bits and pieces of the songs. And this one came up, one of the songs that came up on top. And I wouldn't say I was surprised, but I don't know what to think about the song. It's basically more like a pirate theme song, like fictitious, but it can have certain political, I mean, all depending. I don't want to say too much, because I think people listen to the music and they make up their mind about it. But I found it interesting because I haven't made like a pirate song before. That was weird, but I like the song and the way it came out.
And talking about sort of political or sort of socially conscious lyrics or themes, Miracles for America. Now, on the previous album, you had Lost America.
I know.
So, is this an answer or a positive spin on that sort of slightly darker theme?
It's I don't know how to put it, and without saying too much. Again, I think it's very much up to the listener to make up whatever they get from the lyrics, And I know some of the prog fans say, "Oh, I don't listen to the lyrics. I just dig the music," which is fine. But well, let's put it this way. I think America or the USA right now is in a kind of weird place. I think, and without naming any names, it's kind of a comment, on the state of things. And there's a couple of more songs on the album that goes that way, And I know this will upset some of you guys, but this is what it is, and this is what comes up very natural. And I think for me it's always like you write a song, and one interesting thing with this album that never happened to me before, when I was working with the music and I had the demos of the music, normally I would take like a pen and paper and listen to the song or the demo and scribble down something, come up with an idea for the lyric. This time I didn't do that. I was kind of, I wouldn't say reckless, but I just put up the microphone and I put up on the headphones, and I started to listen to the music, and then I just started singing. So almost all the songs on this album, they came together, the lyrics came together in a very, very weird way. I'm sure there are artists out there. I think I've read somewhere that David Bowie does sometimes things like this. Just walk into the studio and put on the music and then start singing something. And in particular, because English is not my native. I'm from Sweden, so I speak Swedish, but I can't really sing in Swedish, So it was different. I never done it before, but I felt then that maybe I should sit down and rewrite, and I did a little bit, but I'm surprised it was so much of what came up just spontaneously from my brain, what I felt stayed on the final lyrics of the album.
Musically speaking, there was something really weird. When I was listening to it, I heard elements from America, the Simon and Garfunkel song that the Nice did, with the organ stabs. Yeah, and I'm sure whether it's just
Simon and Garfunkel. You mean that one?
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, this is music I've been listening to, since the '60s. So probably there's elements of whatever, Simon and Garfunkel and Marvin Gaye.
Of course, yes, to the version of that as well. I think early on.
Yeah.
But it's weird what comes up in the subconscious.
Oh yeah.
And I have to say, throughout the album, that it's great to hear Hass's voice front and center. He takes the lead on Vertigo, I think, and that's got
he's
lovely vocals.
Yeah,
on that
I know. Yeah, I think that's. Well, generally, it felt like Hasse delivered really good stuff on this album, and I know he was stressed out because he has his own band, so he made that album. It was lots of complications with the mixes and everything, but he came into the studio and sang a couple of times, and it felt like there was something about the way he delivered, you know, with more confidence and really great stuff.
And looking at other tracks, there's Wicked Old Symphony. It sounded very West Coast, like almost birds. Those are the harmonies that came through with your two voices mixing together. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking the other day about the influences, because of course anyone that says I'm not influenced by anyone, it's just my music, that's a lie. We're all influenced by something, you know. And normally it would be like, of course, the obvious, all the Genesis and Yeses and Pink Floyds and all stuff, and that's probably in there too, you know. And there's all the old Flower King stuff in there. But I was thinking the other day about influences coming in that may not be obvious, you know. And you mentioned Simon and Garfunkel, but I'm thinking all the cool, more like psychedelic bands from the late 60s and beginning of the 70s, you know, could be anything from the Allman Brothers to Jefferson Airplane to the Nice and all the more obscure bands from England like Hatfield and the North, and you know, there's always like little elements of music that, you know, you sit down with the electric piano and something comes up, and then you say, what's this? And it's something, it's not like typical prog rock of the day, you know, whatever, Genesis or Yes, but it's more like something that you could, if you want to find a reference, that would be something that maybe a small group of prog listeners understand or like, you know. But I kind of like that. So there's I would say in this album more diverse influences than some of the previous albums, you know.
Yeah, I was going to pick out towards the end of the album. Actually, it's the last main track. We were always there, which has a kind of that. It's like a marimba type of intro, and then it has like kind of tribal drums, and you don't get vocals until quite a long way in.
I know.
Yeah, that's a really nice track.
I know, and that's the other thing I was thinking about. That I think if you go back, I mean, to the beginning of what we now call progressive rock, I think the way people were open-minded and the way people were looking into classical music, to jazz, to different folk music from different parts of the world, with an open mind. And now I feel sometimes that some of the progressive scene now is more like focusing to be the next Pink Floyd or do the next Yes thing or something. Whereas I think actually the bands in the late 60s and 70s, they had an open mind to experiment with anything. And thinking about our recording now, I felt I was sitting in the studio sometimes smiling and say, oh, this is weird. I wonder what people will think about this, you know. And then you send around tapes, and there's the other guys in the band. Yeah, I like that. That's a weird sound. Let's keep that. Or let's keep that bit. Or can you do a little bit more of that, you know? And so I think it felt like in general this album was more experimental. And I can tell if experimental sometimes means it's difficult for people to get into, or maybe could be the other way around. So the more experimental you get, the more just sort of the prog fans are drawn into it because they feel excitement about something being different.
But then of course you're going to play it live, and that stuff is probably the hardest stuff to play.
Yeah, it could be, and I think it's not like technical difficult to play, but it's many layers of sounds. But again, we have, I mean, this wonderful keyboard player from America that he's just amazing. I said, you don't have to play everything, and he comes up and he have all the sounds. He have all the sounds, little tiny little things, you know, and it's like an octopus going like this on his keyboards. So it's it's just a great time to be in the band right now.
So the song I think that represents what you just described really well is Spirals, because it's got babies crying, it's got pattering drums, it's funky. It's like, what's this? But it's just a really, really cool instrumental track.
It is, and that's something I think that came from Zach, who had this marimba pattern thing, you know, and we added like distorted bass and stuff like that, you know. Let's see how far we can go. And you mentioned the babies crying and all that, but it's for the musicians, I think it's a challenge, and they can present something that's a little bit different, you know, and they can experiment and be different.
And because it's an expansive long album, you have a few instrumentals like Rebel Circus on there. Are these songs which you always had in mind to be like a cinematic instrumental, or you just couldn't figure out how to put vocals on it?
No, the Rebel Circus was actually something I said I think to the other guys, if you have something, send it to me, and the drummer sent me the drum track for that one, so it had nothing on it. It was just like a drum track, but from the drum track I built the Rebels with the guitar riffs and everything, you know. So he was sort of starting the composition with, which is very odd, you know, having just drums. But I built from his drums. I sort of built the rest of the composition. So in that sense, I think again we've done things very different from other albums, you know, which I hope and think is a good thing.
So in summary, it's a great listen. Wait for Miracles. It's a long album. It's an intriguing album. Yeah. It's definitely a Flower Kings album. But like you said, there are new elements that are great. The final question on the album is at the end. There's like a 1 minute thing called "Busking Your Brobank," which is kind of, it sounds just like you said, you're in the studio strumming a guitar and What's the background to that?
I think it was one of the guys, could be the keyboard player, said, well, in the lunchroom, because we were recording at the studio in Stockholm. The studio is owned by the ABBA star Benny Andersson, the keyboard player. And it's a different studio and very super nice studio. And they had in the lunchroom, he has this kind of this harmonium, old harmonium. And Zach, I think, said, well, why don't we record something in here, you know? And there was this upright bass, and Jonas sometimes play upright bass, and he said, let's record. So we just took a part from another song, and I can't remember now what the song was, but there's like a thing, you know, and we said, okay, let's do it with just acoustic guitars, more like we're like busking, you know, with some French guy sitting somewhere, you know. And just to have something that was less dramatic, because just about every album we've done is like this big bombastic ending. No, it's like the ending. But we could do it completely the opposite way, you know. Scale it down to nothing, with no fancy reverbs, nothing, no fancy playing, just like four guys, and the drummer was drumming on the table, I think, or some plate or something, and with just one microphone.
Great stuff.
Old style.
But of course, that was a great way to end the album. But now the fun starts.
Yeah.
Not long until we see you live. You've got a tour coming up that takes in Germany, Netherlands, Sweden, and the UK. I think it runs from December the 1st to the 14th. Coming to the UK at the Scala on the 8th of December. So what can we expect on the tour? Lots of new stuff?
I wouldn't say lots of new stuff.
Babies crying?
Yeah, babies crying. We will bring all the babies. You give your babies to us, and we will make them a start. No, reality is that we've tried both. We had some tours where we played lots of new stuff. That didn't go down that well, and we had tours where we played no new stuff at all. That didn't go down well. So you audience, you're never happy. Honestly, we will play new songs. Couple of them, and when I say a couple, that means probably like half an hour, because they're long songs. So we will play that on the tour, and then of course we will continue to play some of the old Flower Kings favorite songs. But because that's yes, we played last year, and some people can't go to the show, and maybe next time, and now's the next time in December. So we try to make a nice balance between old and new, and since we're doing like a double bill this time with Kayak, who is a band that's been around for a long time. We're doing like a double bill, so we can't play for 3 or 4 hours. We can play for maybe, I don't know, 2 hours at the most.
No, it's a great addition to the bill. I mean, I went to see them last year when they played a show in London, and yeah, they're still a phenomenal band. They're great new material.
Oh yeah.
Great musicians.
Oh, they are.
It's a great lineup.
They sound really good live, and I think for some bands are great on record, but live sometimes could be a little bit messy. But Kayak sounds really good live, and actually I used to buy albums by them in the 70s. So interesting, to go on tour with this band, and I hope to hear maybe something from that era also. I don't know what their show is nowadays, but I know for sure they sound really good. So I think it would be a really nice double bill. We're looking forward to it.
Great, Ron. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. To remind everyone again, the new Flower Kings album is out on November the 8th, not long to go, and then a month after that, exactly a month after that, they'll be playing with Kayak in London on December the 8th, and anyone else further afield, there are other dates you can look up on the website between the 1st and the 14th of December.
Exactly.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon. We'll see you out there.
Thank you. Bye-bye.